Welcome to Evo Biz Devo with Isis Latham, your host, your hub for personal and professional growth since 2018. At Evo Biz Devo, we bring together entrepreneurs, business leaders, and change makers to spark ideas, share knowledge, and grow together. Stick with us as we explore fresh ways to expand networks, build resources, and create lasting impact. Let's get started. Business development. I have the privilege today as your host, Isis Latham of Evolution Business Development, to introduce Tabatha Barron. We're going to be talking about breaking the chain, healthcare and education today. And Tabatha comes here with a very unique perspective to this. You know, Tabatha is a hardworking, self-motivated mother of two young adults. She has 15 years of engineering experience, and she chose to create a platform that will help children effectively communicate their way home from school. I just want to pause there for a second and make note of what I just said. Helping children effectively communicate their way home from school. It's one of the most dangerous experiences that a child will go through in the course of their day. And her mission is to make sure that she keeps kids safe, and not just kids, your kids, to help prevent other children, families, and school staff from having a similar experience as her family did. Her goal is to reduce the stress that principals have by reducing the risk of losing a child. Tabatha is a firm believer that breaking the bias and the stereotypes starts with not following the masses, but following your dream. And her vision, your dream, never compromise it for someone else's. Tabatha, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I think we have to start, right from the beginning. What was this experience that your family had that caused you to start keeping your kids safe? Kicks first.
So for me, I listened to my mom when she had to tell me she had to hang up our call because my niece didn't get off the school bus. So to actually hear my mom's voice change from, hey, we have plans for this evening, to, I think we have a problem, was enough of a trigger for me to say, okay, so after we find her, then what do I do next? So at the age of 5, my niece was supposed to get off the bus. My mom was sitting there waiting for her at the stop. But she was dropped off 5 miles away from where my mom was waiting for her. But the thing about it is that when the school put her on the wrong school bus, she attempted to advocate for herself with no success. So she could not effectively communicate her way home. The teacher pretty much said, nope, you listen to me and get on this bus, right? So they placed her on the bus. The bus driver probably knew at that time, they had been doing this for a while. They weren't supposed to receive her that day, but received her anyway, because they have no way to say, no, that child is in the wrong place. And then a childcare provider picked her up, but never bothered to call home. So there's an hour and a half missing, but it all started with, she was not able to effectively communicate and get someone to listen. So she was gone for that hour and a half. My heart was pretty much in my stomach. My mom, her tone and everything had changed. And it was the second time in the school year. So I could be part of the problem or I could be part of the solution. And I chose to be part of the solution, because if you need help in the most vulnerable time of a child's day, then let me give you that help. I'm not here to point fingers at anyone. I just want to support a team of people, because in that situation, I realized that there were 3 major breakdowns of communication during that process. But I only have 2 children. That's why I make it a point to say I have 2 young adults, but I have 2 children. And if you've ever been on a field trip or even going to Target with your own kids, you're always counting heads. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, when you add their friends, right? Schools and the dismissal teams, 900, 500 students at one time. So there is a need for support. It's just a matter of us getting out there to do that.
You mentioned 3 breakdowns of communication. Can you share a little bit more on that with us so that we can understand what that looks like inside of this organization that had a team but didn't have the support they needed?
Sure. So after the first time my niece was misplaced, my mom, I know who she is and I know how she operates. So she literally sat her down and walked her through the plan of how she's supposed to, what she's supposed to do in the event they line her up in the incorrect line. Well, the tags on her backpack confirmed what she was communicating, but the admin or the teacher refused to acknowledge that. So the breakdown was, the first was the process wasn't followed. So a manual process they have in place, they did not follow it. So now we've ventured into a place where now we don't know what the outcome is going to be. The second was when the child spoke, they were not willing to listen or even acknowledge what she was saying. So there's your first breakdown, right? So your breakdown is that on one person you're supposed to be supporting is trying to communicate with you and you're not listening, and you're breaking the initial manual process. So that's your first breakdown. The bus driver knew they weren't supposed to receive them, right? So then here you go, number two. So they don't have enough, I guess, governance or to be able to say, hey, that kid doesn't belong here. They are nothing but an employee, and they have to listen to what is being given to them and what is being said to them, and they can't push back. And then the third part was a childcare center that picked her up. They never bothered to, they said, oh, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. And then took her in their roof, but never bothered to call home. So now you see three. So there's 3 points in which that could have changed. Somebody could have made a difference and made a different decision that would have changed the outcome. And it would have been for the better, because we've never would have been down that journey.
That's interesting where you mentioned bus driver not being able to push back for a short period of time. It was about 1.5 years, I took a job acting as a bus driver. And when I left, actually to move into financial services, the families that I used to drive for, because it was special needs, they said, oh, you can't go. We know you have to, but you can't go. You're the first driver that we could count on who would make proactive decisions. And I thought about that as you were just telling that you're absolutely right. The bus driver is low man on the totem pole, and they're not supposed to push back to anybody. They're just supposed to do what they're supposed to do, and their job is to drive safely. So knowing that these are the challenges, that these manual processes are sometimes not adhered to, that the bus driver can't push back, that the child care center might have a loss of protocol. What does your system do to enable that child to advocate for themselves?
Yes, because that was the big question I had to answer for myself before I could put this in place. What is the one thing that you need the children to do for themselves is to advocate. But what we teach them is that your advocacy does not matter when it's an adult in the room. So in order to get rid of that, or to actually push back on that in a safe way, the child is backed up by the technology. So when they scan their card and they get their information on the screen, that dismissal person, that teacher, that team member will get to choose at this point whether or not they're going to listen to that student or not. So for example, a substitute teacher was at one of the schools, took our system because she's subbing for everything, and she scans the student. And the student has the alert come up, face and everything comes up, and the alert comes up and says, hey, you're sending this kiddo in the wrong direction. Well, the child says, my mom changed me. I can go here now. Don't worry. I'm okay. My mom said I can go here. That substitute teacher did not know any better. So she hit accept and ushered him on to the bus of his choice, not of the choice of the parent. But the parent got the text message, and then she picked up the phone and she called and she said, hey, you got him on the wrong bus. And they're like, thanks for calling. They got on their two-way radio with the dismissal team and say, hey, you need to pull him off that bus. That's not where he belonged, right? So they were able to pull him off the bus before that bus ever left the campus. That's what we're solving, because now that child, he can say whatever he wants, but if it does not match what the system says, then you're more likely to catch and find him where he's trying to misplace himself, because he sees what he wants, and make that change without causing any more harm or trauma to that child or to the family later. So that's kind of how that works. So you give a voice to that child in all situations, whether they're trying to do what they want to do or whether or not they're just saying, this is not my bus, and then you redirect them in the right place.
Well, and you're engaging the two most important people in the conversation, which is the child, because the child needs to learn, and you're engaging the parents so that the parents or the caregiver can know more quickly what's happening. And that's brilliant. How do we help you to get this technology out there?
So it's very interesting. Assistant superintendents can disseminate the product downward, right? And so the whole entire goal is that there are so many children that go to school every single year. We just want to be able to help and support those ones that we get a hold of. Elementary school principals, they are the second group that will get terminated when a child goes missing multiple times. I've experienced that. I've seen it happen because the front office staff will get there. So who I'm looking to meet or be introduced to or get engaged with are parents that with the PTA, PTO groups that have a good relationship with their elementary school principals, because then the elementary school principal is the one that we want to talk to try to work through some of the challenges that they may have and see how we can support them, because I'm one part of what they need support on, but I do have a marketplace of others who are looking to help the same group of people and help their students. So I'm one in front of you, but I'm many, strong.
Wonderful.
So,
it makes me think about yesterday. I volunteered as a parent to go and be a part of a emergency drill. So the scenario was we're going to be taking all the students off campus, which I thought, well, that's kind of a crazy idea, and put them into a safe location. And so as I'm driving over to be one of the parents who does the role playing the pickup, I see all the children walking down the road to the rec department from their school. I now have a great image in my mind of how you can provide a solution and how much easier it would have been in that process. I am compelled by what you're sharing, and I've heard this now a couple of times, but I've not understood it as clearly. And I appreciate the clarity that you've brought to this, that we now know who we can bring the information to, how it's going to serve them. When we got into the rec department, the idea was, there's been a fire at the school. We had to take all the students off campus. They won't be allowed back to the school. And we have now alerted all of the parents that they need to come and pick up their child. And I thought, the one thing that you've missed out on in this all is that we're all totally calm. There would be no calmness. You would have parents absolutely losing it if they thought that their child had been injured or might be missing. And they needed to have a more rapid response. So I see an incredible opportunity. So tell us, how does this that you're doing for the students, for the schools, making sure that our environments where our children are going to get onto a bus or walk home, get into a car, that they're going to get where they're supposed to be safely, how does this relate to healthcare?
okay, so before we move on to the other part, the one thing I will say about KICS is that extracurricular activities, after school programs, summer programs, field trips, drills, whether they're off campus, on campus, all can be supported with KICS. One platform, you pay for it, you can use it every day of the week, or you can use it, once a day, right? It's all up to you. So the check-in especially for these active shooting situations that's been happening, you can actually use that system. I seen it immediately as soon as I seen the latest shooting, not the latest one, but the one a year ago. What I recognize is that all the parents are rushing because there's no way to communicate your child is not part of the group. but our software can actually allow them to scan or check in each one of the children that will send a message to the parents that says your child is safe. That is what is missing, I think, in a lot of what's going on there. And Kicks can cover that because it was meant to be one program to help all three areas that is supporting a child.
Well,
So
that's
all of
incredible. It's kind of like on Facebook where people will mark themselves safe, right? And you
yes,
see that. And even if you're not particularly close with that person, you find yourself breathing a sigh of relief for them that they
yes.
are. And now it gives us a way to be able to mark children as safe so that we don't have to have as much
Pandemonium.
pandemonium.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. Now, when I was building Kicks, I learned we were going through some other stuff, and I actually we were watching my grandmother go through this transition. And what I learned was that everybody was so struggling I have to go to work, so I can't go and see grandma, or I have to go and I have to run these errands, so I'm not able to come back and see about her. Did she eat? How's her blood pressure? How's things going? Things like that. But they will constantly call the nurses station, every couple of hours, which nurses, again, have many. We only have one. And I think that's where a lot of the hiccup is coming into play, is that we only have one member that we're chasing, but they're chasing everybody's member who is there with them that they're responsible for. And that can be upwards of 10 to 15 different patients. So I started paying attention to the fact that there are two groups of people on this planet that just are ignored. Just say, no matter what, that's your young, so that's your future, and that's your aging, and that's your history, right? So all of our history is being ignored and being flushed because nobody wants to sit and listen to the aging. But they miss their appointments because they can't drive, or the pickup service doesn't come. They don't always make their appointments, or they're afraid to come out. So I figured I need to provide a way to help and support the aging population as well. Because come 2030 to 2035, the aging population will outnumber the number of children under the age of 18.
Wow. So this same exact device is used for the aging who might be in the hospital, or living in assisted care, or at home living by themselves.
KISS is keeping your senior silver. That's what I've named it, because I know that the aging population doesn't like to be called aging, legacy, old, blah, 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 blah. So I just call them the silver team. So KISS is actually a 3-prong approach. So one is transportation. So it will look very similar to the KICS program. The second part is going to be community involvement. And then the third part is the follow-up, right? So there are 3 pieces for an aging person or part of the silver team that they struggle with that KISS will actually help support. And that's getting them in front of the doctors in a timely manner, making sure that the point of contact is being connected or contacted with any next steps or any challenges that the doctor or medical professional encounters at the time. Mm-hmm. So, and then it helps as far as understanding when they may have gotten picked up by their transport and when they got dropped off. Because the one thing is, if your appointment's at 12 and you get picked up from your home at 11:45, there's no way in the world you're making that 12 o'clock appointment. And now we have a point of contact, so we know exactly what's happening. And then the doctor can learn that just as well.
And so the end user on that, so the KICS first is for the school to provide to all of the students, but the Silver Team product line, that is for the individual family to purchase for their family member.
Yeah. So we have both. So in order for that to happen, we will have both sides of that. So you will have the one side, which is more the transport, that's going to be directly with the families. And that's going to be connected to transport companies that are going to be able to come in, pick them up and move on and take them to where they belonged. And most, like in my city that I'm originating from, they had access in the state of, I think it's Texas. So they have Metro Lift. So that's for the aging population. So we're just going to call them the silver team from this point on. So the silver team gets that from there. So all of them have different transport companies, individual, but they also do have the mass transit companies who actually do a lift for the silver teams. So those are the groups that they'll have at their on their app. So they're able to say, hey, I need to schedule this ride for this time for this person, right? And then you're able to see that. Now for the rest of it, that's more like doctor's offices, hospitals, any of those medical professionals, community centers, things like that. Those are the people who you want to have that with, and assisted living, because Isis, you've said you have to work. I have to work. So if something happens, I can relocate for a short period of time, but I'm still going to be not there all day long to kind of watch after my mom or after whomever. So wouldn't it be great to actually receive a message that says, hey, we've checked in on your mom. She's doing great. Blood pressure is within range. Everything is beautiful. You need to contact us. Your next appointment is X, Y, and Z time and day. So that's a much better experience than what was happening during COVID, because COVID is a point in the pivotal moment where we knew everything, that they were not ready. Okay. You can tell that they're not ready to take on that weight that's going to happen in 2030. Because the system completely broke down, and a lot of families were not able to say goodbye or to spend that time with them or to even understand what was happening. So if you send out HIPAA compliant messages to the medical point of contact, now everyone's on the same page, and now they don't feel as though they're being pushed out while bad things are happening to their family members.
Well, there's so much new information here, and it's addressing things that are absolutely critical to the success of our country, to our communities. I want to thank you, Tabatha, for being here with us today and starting this conversation and helping to bring clarity to us as to how we might be able to better serve our youth in the education system and our elderly, who are the silver team. I like that from here on out. I am so pleased to have had you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Want to be our next featured speaker? Click the link in the description to register, and let's stay connected. Follow me on all those social media platforms for financial tips to help you make your money work smarter while you build financial stability. Stay tuned for more, and see you in the next one.